ba'y nagbabalak ng bumili ng bahay? Let's hope that this is the right time. The first-time homebuyer incentive has been discontinued by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. Launched in 2019, the plan was meant to help reduce monthly mortgage payments for first-time buyers by having the government take on partial ownership of a property. To give us more information and to explore other options on how Canadians can still afford to buy their first home, we are joined by Marilyn Magtoto, mortgage agent from Pineapple National. Mabuhay, Marilyn. Welcome to You Multicultural channel.
Mabuhay.
Okay, kamusta?
Mabuti naman. How about you?
I'm good. And then today we'll be discussing about this very hot topic,
Yes.
About the housing. So we are very aware about the happening housing issues right now in Toronto and I guess all over Canada. And this is very relative, very timely to discuss. The cancellation of the first-time home buyers. Would you like to care to explain what the first-time home buyer incentive is all about?
Yeah, thank you. The first-time home buyer incentive is actually an incentive that the government rolled out 5 years ago. It was a 5-year plan that they rolled out to try to help homeowners, first-time home buyers specifically, help with the affordability of buying their first home. Essentially what they did is they granted an incentive to give first-time home buyers either 5% or 10% of the home that they're purchasing to make part of their down payment. So the reason why it's 5 or 10 is because if you're buying a resale home, it has to be 5% is the maximum that you can get from this incentive from the government. But if you are buying a brand new, new build home, they allow you to borrow up to 10%. And the reason why I say you borrow is because it's actually an incentive that requires a repayment to the government. They called it a shared equity mortgage, meaning the government shares in the gains and loss, the appreciation or the depreciation of the value of your property. When it comes time that you have to repay the incentive, you now have to repay matching the 5% or the 10% of the value of the home at the time you're repaying it. So if your home has increased in value,
yes,
by the time you decide to repay it, let's say 2 years later, the amount that you have to repay the government is going to be higher than what you originally got from them.
Yeah.
But the ultimate benefit is it helped a lot of clients reduce their mortgage payments, but also B, reduce the cost of the CMHC premiums or the default insurance premiums they had to pay. Because I don't know if you're aware, but in Canada, based on how much of a down payment you put, whether it's 5%, 10%, or 15%, it varies what kind of premium you have to pay. The more of a down payment you put, the lower the default insurance premium you have to pay. So in essence, people who only had 5% of their own money now got this incentive from the government. Now they have 10% that they're putting down. It reduced their premium that they had to pay. So it is required that you do pay the government back for that incentive, which is what a lot of people don't really realize about the incentive. And to be honest, once we explained that to clients, sometimes it made the difference between the client deciding whether they were going to avail the incentive or not, right? Because of the fact that they realize they have to pay it back within a certain time frame.
But knowing that fact, do you still find many first-time home buyer availing the incentive?
Not as much as I thought there would be, to be honest. When they first rolled it out in 2019, I really thought more clients would take advantage of this incentive. But again, like I said, once we explain to clients how the incentive works, that there is a requirement to repay to the government, a lot of them become reluctant because they know essentially a lot of homes in Winnipeg, a lot of people when they purchase it, they plan on doing renovations to improve the quality and the value of the home. So they know the incentive they have to pay back is going to be higher. So it did turn off some people to the incentive, but there were clients that did take advantage of it because they really liked the reduction in the payment that they received from it.
So it's pretty much more like a short-term help, right?
It should be. It should be. But the government does give you 25 years to repay the incentive,
Okay.
which is generous. But I never recommend to clients to wait 25 years to pay the incentive back. Because can you imagine growth and appreciation value of your home after
Yeah.
25 years? The good news is after a few years, the government implemented a caveat or a change to the regulation. The amount of incentive you have to pay back to the government tops out and maxes out at 8% of the incentive gains or loss.
Okay.
So they do cap it, but
Yeah.
there was a time when that cap wasn't there, and it was scary for a lot of people that took the incentive. Because imagine if you had a new build home. As you know, with new build homes, you're growing your equity far quicker.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So by the time they pay back the incentive, it gets really costly for a lot of clients.
Yeah. Does that affect now the like some of the clients that are aware about this cancellation? Are they now more hesitant to or postpone their decision to buy their first home, or not really?
Actually, it's the opposite because now they know that there's a deadline.
Yes.
So March 21st, 2024, midnight, is the specific deadline for applying for this incentive. If you haven't found a home to apply for this incentive for by March 21st, 2024, that's it. The government is not taking any more new applications in. So, you know, it actually has created an urgency. When I recently posted about the discontinuing of this incentive, a lot of clients actually reached out to me saying, hey, is it too late? Can I go and apply? And I'm like, well, have you found a home? Right? So if anything, it created an urgency instead of people waiting on the back burner.
So I read that not many provinces really take advantage of this incentive. I guess depending on the the status of the housing market. But I feel like you see like in Winnipeg, is it very, very helpful for first-time home buyers?
It has been. And I know what you mean by with other provinces, it's a little bit more difficult to take advantage of the incentive. And that actually was a complaint that was brought up by a lot of people because people in Toronto, or in BC, those markets, their housing prices are significantly higher and also household incomes are significantly higher.
Yeah.
The incentive has a max limit of 120,000 annual income that can be used on an application. Well, people have far more income in those provinces than compared to here in Winnipeg and Manitoba specifically. So out of the provinces, I would assume that we probably had more people take advantage of it here because they could.
They could,
and they met the criteria, whereas other provinces, it probably fell outside of the regulations.
So nakikita mo ba na mapapalitan ito ng panibagong incentive?
That's a great question. Actually, ang dami nagtatanong ng same question na yan kung merong replacement na i-implement ng government. Sa ngayon, wala pa. Initially, nung ni-roll out nila itong incentive na to, it was meant to be only a 5-year plan. And that was 2019. We're 2024. So it was actually expected na ngayon matatapos yung incentive na yun. So it's timely, but whether or not there's going to be a new incentive that they'll put into place, we'll have to see. What I will say though is merong bagong savings vehicle na in-implement ng government. I don't know if you've heard of it, yung first-time home savings account. First home savings account ang tawag. So it's basically like a hybrid between an RSP home buyer's plan, right, and a tax-free savings account. It gives you the benefit of both. So it's really good for first-time home buyers. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking for a place to save your money for your down payment, that would be my recommendation, is to use that vehicle because you can only do it at your first time that you're buying a house.
So ang nakikita ko dito, so this is like more the government is encouraging you to save instead of to loan, right?
Yes, because essentially you're loaning from the government, right?
So aside from this, I know there are also several options now. Now that we don't know this is going to be discontinued, what are these other options? So you mentioned about the savings.
Yes.
And anything else?
The first-time home savings plan, the reason why I advocate for that more is, like I said, it gives you the benefit na meron siyang tax benefit to, when you're putting that money into the first home savings account, you get a tax deduction on your income taxes, similar
Yes.
to when you're doing it on your RSP. But when you take it out to use as down payment on your first home, it's not getting taxed either.
Yeah.
So it's both, but it does have maximum limits. So make sure you talk to your financial advisor to find out what your limits are for the year.
Yeah.
I believe it's $8,000 a year, but talk to your financial advisor and they can tell you a little bit more. But there is still yung RSP home buyers plan that's not gone. You can still, again, borrow from your RSP, which is meant to actually be used for your retirement. But if you're using it to purchase your first home, you can take it out of your RSP without getting taxed on it. But there is a requirement na iipon nyo ulit yon sa RSP nyo
Yeah.
within 15 years of being in the home. So, it's important to talk to professionals like myself or to a financial advisor so that we can tell you which one is the best course of action for you, kung anong pinakamagandang savings vehicle, because there are options out there.
Yeah, that's good because we are all in different levels or stages of our lives. Like there are home buyers who are more mature. Yeah, you'll think the most home buyers are young, and but there are who are in mature years, and they are the first-time home buyer.
And speaking of that, actually, I found out a recent statistic that the average age of homeowners or people buying homes nowadays has increased. It used to be around mid-30s, now it's mid-40s.
Wow.
So, and I think it's just, it's becoming a little bit more difficult for some people to come up with those savings. So that's why information like this is really important.
Yeah, and actually, I've read this studies too. Sometimes if you pag naniwala ka doon sa everything you see online, it's getting scarier with what's happening right now. But I mean, there are interventions, and we see that the government are trying to address those issues. And what else do you think, like in your own opinion, could have been improved to help more home buyers to buy their first home?
I mean, in my opinion, the incentive was really good.
Yeah.
And it did benefit a lot of clients. I know from my own experience, there were clients, that incentive made the difference between getting approved and not.
Oh, okay.
So it made a difference in a lot of people's lives. So I wish and I hope that they would come out with something similar or better to help first-time home buyers purchase a home. But for right now, I mean, to me, it served the purpose that it needed to. But to be honest, I feel like not enough people took advantage of it. Kasi nga natakot sila dun sa requirement na
to repay.
you have to repay the incentive.
I think ibinabagay din dun sa panahon.
Yes.
Like, because times are now inflation.
Yeah.
It's harder. So I am excited to what the government, the federal, will come up to, right? I think it will be improved.
Yes.
And it will be, help a lot more, not just the first-time home buyer, but those who are reselling and buying their second home.
Exactly, and that's the other thing that people make a comment on about this incentive is why only for first time? What if, I'm upgrading and I'm buying my next home, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing for those types of home buyers. So who knows, maybe that's something that they'll come out with soon, but we'll see.
To help with that and to encourage, not to discourage our people who want to buy their first home, what do you really suggest for them to prepare?
Honestly, I would say first and foremost, before you even start looking at a home, talk to a professional, mortgage professional, financial advisor, because a lot of clients, I find, a lot of people make an assumption about their financial situation.
Yes.
And either they think, A, they're ready, but they're really not, or B, they're not ready, but they really are.
Oh, okay.
So we get both kinds when we're talking to people. Merong makikita mo talagang ready na sila, but they're conservative, so they think they're not, right? And then there's ones that feel, I'm ready to look, or nagsimula nang magtingin, pero hindi pa nila alam kung ano talaga yung kaya nila. So to me, the most important thing is talk to a professional. Get an assessment and get a review done of your financial situation. Doesn't mean naman that you have to move forward now. just an assessment gives you an overview of what's possible for you.
Yeah.
Whether or not you decide to take advantage and go forward now or hintayin mo until months or years later, so be it. At least, alam mo na kung ano yung lagay mo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
It's better to have a certain goal. And with that, I heard about because of this, well, not crisis, but the situation that we have right now. People are getting very creative. Like, I see a lot of, mortgage with their kids, mortgage with an extended family. And I think these are also related to how people are trying to help themselves and make sure that they get to afford to buy their first home.
Yes.
What can you say about that?
that is actually more common than you think. It actually happens quite a bit. It is a misconception that people think to buy a home, it's two people.
Yeah.
That's actually not the case. It's very often where we get multi-families purchasing a home together. You can have 4 or 5 people on a mortgage application to purchase a home if that's what makes sense. I'll share an example with you. There was a time when I even did a mortgage for 4 friends. Magkakaibigan lang sila.
Okay.
But they were all renting
Yeah.
their own homes, their own apartments,
Okay.
okay? Paying their own monthly rent. But they all hang out together
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So they made a decision, let's all go buy a home together and we'll share all of the costs and all the expenses equally. And at the end of 5 years, they all decided, okay, it's time to walk away and get our own place.
Yeah.
They then split the equity that they made from that home after 5 years, which is really efficient if you think about it. So it's not just 2 people that applies. You can have 1, you can have 4. It really depends on you, but it is very common. We have parents that have their kids or their kids having their parents co-mortgage with them on an application. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of flexibility and it gives you more affordability nowadays, especially we're going into the spring market, magiging busy na naman, magkakaroon na naman ng mga bidding wars,
Yeah.
right? So having multiple people on an application means you can qualify for more and you can get into that home sooner. But always a caveat there, always make sure that all parties are in agreement on what will happen in the event somebody changes their mind in the future. So those are the kind of things that it's important to have a conversation about with your professional
Yeah.
so that they can guide you as to the pros and cons of that.
Yeah, it's good that you have these options, but of course, hindi natin malalaman unless you speak to a professional.
Correct.
So what else would you like to tell our kababayan? Like, would you advise? Now, like you mentioned, it's going to be spring season. A lot of people are going to be house hunting,
Yes.
checking what's out there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so biggest thing for those of you that are looking to buy your first home, prepare. Talk to a professional, get an assessment done. There are a lot of people in the industry right now conducting seminars, information sessions. Attend those. Attend several of those if you want so that you can see what kind of information is being put out there. But main thing, get yourself reviewed because a lot of the seminars will give you general blanket info, but you want information that's specific to you and your situation. So that's the biggest thing. If I could recommend anything is get an assessment done individually for yourself to see what makes sense. And then we can tell you if there's something that needs to be looked after before you can qualify or perhaps there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yes.
We can take a look at all of those ahead of time instead of you're writing an offer na too late na at that point, diba? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, maraming salamat, Marilyn, for all this information.
For sure.
And again, if you know more, you can check Marilyn Magtoto's Facebook page. And also, you can message us at Mabuhay TV at You Multicultural channel. Maraming salamat at mabuhay.
thank you.